Tara, welcome to Permastoked. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for having me and welcoming me.
Right on. Thank you. I'm glad to have you on here. You're the first female guest I've had.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we need more representation.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, it's pretty cool. I'd say like in general in the surfing world, there's definitely a movement towards like women surfers, which is really cool.
So what's it like being a female surfer on the Great Lakes? Because for me, I'll tell you very briefly, I started surfing in Leamington in maybe about 1999, and I was totally by myself. Like it was just me, and who's that goofy guy surfing the Great Lakes? He can't surf the Great Lakes, that whole thing. So it was me and two or three other friends. So there were no women there, so I don't have any
Yeah.
perspective on what that looks like now. So what's it like being a female in this Great Lakes surfing scene? From the people I've met over the past, it's been predominantly male oriented, but I'm imagining, 20 years later, that's changed. So what does that look like?
You know what? To be honest, it has definitely changed. I would say with with groups like Lake Surfistas that are really sort of giving, not that they exclude men, but that they kind of give a safe haven for women who are curious about, surfing the Great Lakes and surfing in general. And maybe they know a guy friend that does the lake surfing nice, actually out there and doing it. I would say I've seen a huge rise in interest, and I'm like in the female population interested in surfing. And I'm not sure if that's because more women are interested or if because I myself am a woman who's surfing and that I'm attracting, that because I'm out there. I do know when I started, I was alone for the most part. Yeah, actually, and I pretty much surfed by myself for a good like year and a half before I started to meet people through the business actually. And now I've got quite a cool crew of people that I can head out with that actually I'd say is pretty 50-50. We've definitely got a lot of women surfers up here, and we definitely go pretty hard. Like I know a lot of people will tap out sort of in November, but I know me and some of my friends, like we're there until it freezes. Like this year we made it to February, which I was really happy with. So yeah, I would say in general, it's really welcoming. Like anytime I'm out there, even if it's more men, everybody's really nice. Like pretty much all the guys out there are pretty friendly and pretty welcoming, and they'll cheer you on and we'll cheer them on and that kind of stuff. The biggest challenge, in all honesty, is gear. They make better gear for men than they do for women, like most companies. And I know why. There's not a huge market for winter women surfers. So like I wear a guy suit for my six because I just can't find an equivalent in basically just in quality for women. They all tend to cap them at a 5 mil when you really need some warm gear. Even boots, like I can't get the Solite boots in my size. They don't go small enough. So I'd say that's a bit of a challenge, but I do think there's some companies out there like Hyperflex is noticing that there's a gap to be filled there, because there's a lot of women that would, I think, would push the envelope and would surf those winter waves if they knew that they were going to be warm.
Yeah.
So there you go. So that's my nutshell.
Right on. Yeah, there's a business opportunity there.
Yeah, for sure.
Female 6 mil wetsuits.
Yeah.
So I mean, surfing and then surfing the Great Lakes especially, it's so niche. I mean, the community in Canada is fairly small. So I mean, if someone was being a douchebag, it would be pretty apparent. I mean, there's really not much room for that because it's so small already, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, okay, so Tarah Coates you're from whereabouts in Ontario?
Oh, well, I currently live in Lucknow, which is in between Kincardine and Goderich, on the shores of Lake Huron. But originally I'm from like greater Toronto area, like GTA, Bradford kind of area is where I grew up. And then I also spent some time on the East Coast in Halifax.
Nice, right on. Oh, I love Halifax. Yeah, I did some tree planting out there. It's
Nice.
amazing. Yeah. Did you used to surf Martinique Beach and Lawrencetown and stuff?
Lawrencetown.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
that was my beach.
Right on, yeah. I've been surfing both those spots. Pretty wicked, yeah. So Brantford. So how does a girl from or a woman from Brantford get into surfing? These are the best questions. Like someone from, out in the country, Ontario, how'd you get into surfing?
So when I moved to Halifax, that's where I started surfing. So I did start surfing ocean first. And I went as consistently as possible, but then basically career-wise, I was brought back to Ontario. And through that, I ended up on the shores of Lake Huron. So I was an ocean surfer that I like one of those casual ocean surfers, like anytime I went on vacation, I would surf because I wanted to. And I had no idea you could surf the lakes. And I grew up here. Like I grew up in Wasaga Beach. Like I didn't know that you could surf. And it wasn't until I was in Kincardine working on a project that I caught wind of lake surfing, and I was just immediately intrigued, and I basically learned the hard way. I figured out when there was waves, I grabbed a board and I threw myself in. And I think I got like pretty eaten the first day because it was high winds. Like I shouldn't have gone out. I should have waited for them to back off a little bit.
Okay.
But it was basically my career that brought me to this area that led me to lake surfing, and I haven't looked back since, really.
Right on. So what is it about that Station Beach or K Pier that makes the conditions really good there?
Oh, one, it's the pier itself. So on a northwest wind, you do get a really, really nice rip current, where if you're confident and you know how to handle yourself in a rip current, that's a really awesome way to make it out to the back without having to deal with the constant barrage of waves every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So that is a big plus. I know a lot of people will just flat out jump off the pier. That works as well. But I like paddling out because then I know I can make it out. And so part of it, I think, is that part of it is just the way a northwest wind hits Station Beach. It just builds beautifully in the north, and then just hits at such a nice angle, and you get such a long build time, and the beach itself is pretty level. Like especially this year, the sand really filled in this year, so you actually get really nice peelers. So you get a much longer ride, especially if you're heading right. And I think that's partly what makes it so nice. I think part of it is too, our water is colder. So I think you're getting a stronger wave just because colder water's more dense, colder wind's more dense. So I think that's part of it as well. Like we can build some pretty big waves in the back there. But definitely the pier helps clean it up too. Like when you got those bigger days, the pier will kind of cause it to break and peel. And I think the water too. Like I think Lake Huron it's such a beautiful lake, and you're out there and it's just this gorgeous aquamarine blue a lot of the time. So I think that is good as well. Yeah,
that beats the brown dirt algae that I may or may not have surfed in for a long time. So that northwest wind, really that northwest wind, there's a whole coast there, so I would think there's other good spots, but is it Sauble Beach and things like that? Are the conditions less there because of the landscape, or because I know it's like a stone bottom the further you go, isn't it?
Yeah, the further you go, it starts to get more and more rocky. I know Bayfield works really well on a northwest. You know what, that whole coast, there's spots depending on the bottom, like depending on the sand. Bars that are there will produce some pretty nice waves. Now Sobble, I have to say I haven't actually surfed it myself, but I've heard it's a little messier than Station. I've heard Station gets a little cleaner.
Okay. The waves look huge at Station. Is that the exception or is that the norm? Like, because the pictures just look fantastic.
In the fall and the winter, that's the norm.
Yeah,
like the
wow.
summer, they can get pretty small. Like all the lakes get really small. But when we get that like anything north to northwest, well, and west can produce a really gnarly
I would
wave.
think so, yeah.
Insane, but you can't get out. Like, that's the problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, they just build really, really nice. I think that also has to do with the depth of Huron. Like, we have a lot of water. Like, Erie's really shallow, but Huron's got a lot of water. And you can see some pretty huge waves out in the back that you can't even reach, that I think would be monsters if you had a jet ski.
Right on, wow. Yeah. I saw you posted some surfing etiquette during COVID times. So how is COVID affecting your shop and the surf this year so far?
Whew, COVID was, I think for everybody, was not fun. So, I mean, we had to fully close. So that was, as far as the retail side of the business goes, that was really, really hard and scary and nerve-wracking. But on the plus side, it definitely launched us to do our online store. So we now have a fully functional online store, which we should have done a while ago. So that is a plus.
Nice.
So, I mean, when the beach was closed, I think that was hard on a lot of local surfers, because water's kind of a part of your life. Now, luckily, when it opened, to be honest, I saw nothing but really respectful behavior out there. I know some people traveled to our beach that maybe shouldn't have, but I also noticed that everybody kept their distance. So for the most part, I haven't seen crowding. We can get very packed at that beach in the summer if we get a summer swell. I think maybe 20 people out there, but everybody's spread out really well. So for the most part, I've seen nothing but people kind of keeping their distance. I don't think anybody is interested in making anyone else sick.
Right on.
So I'd say as a community, we really did well.
Yeah. So today is June 18th. So are things kind of simmering down there and going back to some semi-normal, or?
Yes, for sure. Both stores are now open, which is great, obviously with increased sanitization protocols. And we also are allowed to gather up to 10 people now. We've moved into phase 2 in this area. So the really great thing about that is I'm now comfortable to start our rentals. So we do have surf and stand-up paddleboard rentals. And then I'm just, every time I get a board back, I just make sure I wipe it down, and I try not to rent that board out again that day.
I see.
Yeah, so I've been doing my best to negate that. And I've definitely seen, well, since gyms are closed and all the indoor activities are closed, I am seeing a huge interest in surfing and stand-up paddleboarding because it's a great way to do something.
Yeah, really, yeah. I'm finding for SUP rentals or lessons anyhow, that the boards aren't bad to clean, but man, like PFDs and whistles and everything has to be wiped down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me about SurfSup Eco Shop and how this place came to be.
Sure. Okay, so that kind of ties into my surf journey. So when I did discover that you could surf freshwater, I was unbelievably elated, and I went searching for a rental because any place I've ever gone to surf has rentals, and I couldn't rent a surfboard. And so that sort of made me realize, okay, there's a need here that's not being filled. And that's when I decided to launch full-fledged into SurfSup. I've always wanted to run my own business. The career I was in was great. It was a job, but it was never like a passion. And I'm very passionate about the water. I love being active. Surfing is definitely my life, and it just seemed like a really good fit and a really good opportunity. So basically I just jumped in, and
So
here
what
we are.
year was that?
Oh,
What,
I was a wind turbine technician.
oh, no. Oh, yeah. Actually, I read that you're wind turbine and an actress, aren't you?
Oh yeah. That's what I went to school for.
Wow, right on. Actress turned wind turbine
Yeah.
expert turned surf
Business
store
owner.
owner.
Yeah, surf
Nice.
store owner. Yeah.
That's wicked,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I'm definitely into a lot of things, I'd say.
Wow, yeah. You need to get those I remember back in the day they wanted to put wind turbines in Lake Erie and our town
Yeah.
hall. Like we stormed town hall for them not to do that because the zoning would have screwed everything up and surfing especially. But,
Yeah.
maybe they need to, maybe it would have been different if they'd put it lower and just be
Yeah.
like creating surf all the time for us.
Turn them into motors and we'll just get them going. We'll just rewire them, and like, that'd be
Oh,
funny.
really? Yeah. So what year was that you launched SurfSup? Or is it,
Oh,
wait a minute, is it SurfSup or SurfSup?
both.
Okay.
So that was
Very
like,
sneaky.
yeah. So it's surfs up, but surfs up. It's both. Because as you know, we're a lake and the surf is not always up. And when the surf is not up, you gotta stop.
That's
So
right,
that's
yeah.
why I put that name. So we launched in July of 2017. And it was amazing. This has definitely been the best thing I've ever done with my life. And here we are still going strong in 2020, and we did open our second location last year in Goderich.
Wow, exciting. When you launched, were you the only shop at the time? Because I know now there's West Shore as well, right?
Yes, West Shore was there, but they didn't do any of the surf piece. So they did some stand-up paddleboard rentals, but and they mostly are a lake lifestyle
Okay,
shop. So I
cool.
knew that I was going to go very hard in the surf direction, and that there would be room for the both of us, as well as far as all of my apparel goes. It's all eco-friendly, so it's all lines that they don't carry.
Yeah, so tell me about the whole eco side of things. That's something else I was curious about.
Oh, for sure. Well, I think partly being, a wind turbine technician, that obviously kind of makes you just more aware of different any sources and natural sources that we can use. And I think, like, I've always been an outdoor girl, from surfing to hiking to rock climbing to all the things I like to do outside. So I've always been more environmentally friendly, I think, than the world has been concerned with. But I'd say that fueled me to go in that direction. Plus, with four ocean movements and with all of the social media access we have, and we now see just how bad certain areas are, I think it's getting more and more important to support companies that are actively doing things to make our world better, whether it's simply making sure that their footprint is really small, or that they're using recycled materials, or that they're cutting down on their fossil fuel consumption, and that they're ethical as well. So we're really big on that. We really try to support companies that are fair trade certified, and things like that. So that's why we took the shop in that direction. And it's definitely led me to some really cool brands that are doing amazing things, even with wetsuits, because wetsuits are awful. So there's a couple brands we have that have these eco-friendly suits that I love. So it's really cool to find these companies that are doing gear as well, because gear's hard. It's easy to get eco-friendly clothing. It is hard to find eco-friendly gear.
Wow, yeah, I believe it. I love that. I love that angle you have going. I also look forward to the day, though, that we don't have to jam that word in there, like that it's just assumed. Because, I mean, it's just not sustainable the way we're going. If we don't change, like, we're euchred. Like, we have to be shifting this way.
I agree. And the crazy thing is, we have the ability to do it. Like, every company can do it. There's a solution to everything. You can reuse, you can, like, recycle, you can make better quality stuff so it never dies. Like the Vibram 5-fingered shoes, those shoes don't die. Like you buy a pair and 10 years later, that thing's still good.
Yeah.
So even that kind of stuff, which I understand economically they don't like, because then, you know, you're only buying one shoe every 10 years, but how much money do you really need? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might not be wearing it in 2 years from now, and you sort of disassociate yourself with it. But like you're saying, that's rotting in a landfill somewhere very slowly.
Yeah, very, very slowly.
Wow, very cool. So what was the progression like then from opening up in Kincardine, figuring things out? Because you told me before that the first 2 years were pretty tough. I think you were working somewhere else still. So, and then now you have a second location. So something must have, you know, went really well somewhere in there.
Yeah. So I knew when I opened up the store, since I don't, you know, have a degree in business, and I do have retail experience, but not necessarily a ton. So since I knew I was opening up a business I wasn't necessarily super prepared for, I knew the responsible thing was to stay working, because especially the first year of business, you just got to survive. Like you don't make any money. So to be responsible for myself and for this investment and for this venture, I stayed working full time for the first 2 years.
Wow.
It was a lot of juggling. And basically I was able to do a lot of work. I just worked all the time. That was pretty much what I did for the first 2 years.
Were you running the store during the day and working somewhere else at night?
I actually, because I'm a small business owner, I hired my mom as my store manager.
Wow.
And so she store during the week, and then I would come in on the weekends. In the summer, luckily my job, I ended at 3 p.m. so I could still do things at night. I could still run sunset paddles. I could still teach lessons. I could do things like that. I could be in the store. So it was a lot. But eventually that did allow the business to grow enough that I was able to leave the wind turbine thing, and now I am full-time shop. And the Goderich location was just a really good opportunity. And that's why I sort of jumped on that. It was a little sooner than I would have expanded. But I was able to sort of collaborate with another individual who wanted to see SurfSup move to Goderich. And so the two of us were able to kind of open this up.
Nice.
And it ended up being a really, really good move. Because the Kincardine store is quite small, actually. So so we're in Goderich right now.
Okay.
The Kincardine store is about 800 square feet. It's quite small, whereas Goderich, I think I'm at 2,000, almost 3,000 square feet here. So it really allowed us to kind of broaden out and bring in more product.
Just blows my mind that there's surf shops in Ontario now. Like, I wish, like when I started surfing, it was totally different. Like, I just can't believe it. It makes me so happy to see that there's other people like me. There's other people out there surfing the lakes. I read an article you wrote, and you mentioned something about, Great Lakes surfers referring to themselves as kooks, and we're okay with that. Yeah, like it's not an ego thing. It's like we're totally cool with admitting that, yeah, it's just a lake, but hey, like they produce some pretty rad waves, whether you believe it or not.
No, for sure. And I mean, like, I think like it's Aurelian, who they call Frenchie, he kind of said it best, like we surf in the storm because we have to. Like it's the craziest thing we do. Like we surf when it's blown out, we surf in snow squalls, like we surf in rain. Ocean surfers would like probably not surf in those conditions, but that's what we get. But I think we're also I think we realize how lucky we are, though, that we're not on the coast, we're not on an ocean, but we still get to surf.
Yeah, like, absolutely.
Amazing. Like you couldn't. I think we also all realize, and maybe that's what bonds us so well together, is we we realize how ridiculous it is, but how amazing and lucky we are at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love the fusion of it. You know, it's like Japanese fusion food, you know, fused with English or something. I love that with the surfing the Great Lakes, like this, you know, it's driving through the country to get from town to town, going on the 401, big box stores, fields, you know, this kind of life, factories, and then, hey, let's go surfing.
Yeah.
It's just so wild. Yeah.
No, it really is. So when you like, because I've heard of you famed people that have been surfing the lakes for lucky people that got to surf forever. But I heard like when you guys were sort of first out there, like forecasting was borderline impossible. Boards were almost impossible to get. Like, what was that like?
Yeah. So for myself, like I've told other people, I consider myself like really a soul surfer. You know, I'm into the feeling, the vibe. I live close to the lake. I could put my ear out the window. I'm not the expert, you know, weather forecaster person. I wish. I'm working on that. I don't have those kind of skills quite yet. So I know some guys, you know, they had these radios and things like that. I've heard some different people talk about them. But really, there was a book. Have you ever seen the book, Surfing the Great Lakes?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember that book existed, and in there was a statistic that said there's something like 500 surfers on the Great Lakes. And so I knew in my town, I was like, you know, one of 3.5. And after that, I mean, if I had, you know, I was pretty young at the time, so I wasn't, you know, up on driving here and there. If I had been driving up to Lake Huron and Ontario, I might have met some more people in the crowd, but I was just locked into my break at home and doing that. And it was really guys from Michigan that would come over. That's when I felt like I was part of something bigger.
Yeah.
There was a few guys that would come over. Emilio Marino is one of them, Paul Kevlin, Dean Williams. These are all Michigan guys that would come over. And so I got my first board through Dean, and his company at the time was called Up North Surfboards or Up North Longboards, something like that. Anyway, it was pretty rad. It was pretty like very pioneer, very, you know, rough stuff back then, which led me in 2008 to I'd been living in Toronto from 07 to 08, and I was just like, the city life was way too much for me, being from a small town. So anyhow, came to Vancouver, still a city, but a very different vibe from Toronto, much more, a much better kind of segue for me into city life, I guess you'd say. So now I've been surfing the ocean for the past 12 years. You know, I get up to Tofino whenever I can. I go to Westport, Washington. I go to Cannon Beach, Oregon. These are the places I frequent. But in that time, you know, I remember when I left, I think there was a place in Toronto called the Boardroom. They existed. I think Surf Ontario may have just been beginning around that time. I'm not sure. But really, it was not what it is today. And so now I've just been in these Facebook groups and on the internet and just seeing it exploding, like, you know, all these different shops opening up. I can't believe it. I'm like, wow, okay, I'm part of something bigger than I ever thought. And now I'm looking to really reconnect with all you guys who've sort of taken it over and are doing it. And I'm ready to kind of come back and catch up and see what's been going on.
That's awesome. Oh man. Yeah, it must be. I mean, do you think you'll miss the ocean? Like I mean, I love my lake waves. I do. But the ocean is, I mean,
I will absolutely miss the ocean and Tofino in general. I just love that town. It is something special there. Whenever I go there, you know, it's just forest everywhere and the oceans, you know, across the street. It feels so magical there. Like, it's so Canadian. It's everything I want Canada to be, you know, like just being in the woods, having some surf, some mountains nearby. It's gorgeous. But the deterrent is these horrible house prices in Vancouver are extremely unsustainable. I mean, back home, these wartime homes you can buy for like 125 grand or something like that. I mean, out here, those things are $500,000 at least, or if not more. So it's just crazy. And from what I'm told about Tofino, the prices are pretty high there too.
Mhm.
I would suck it up and live there anyhow because I love it so much, but all our family's back home, and my wife really is yearning to get back to that as well. And and with the thought of having children and stuff, we want to be near the family. So, but to be honest with you, as much as I'm going to miss the ocean, I will probably get more surf opportunity living on the lakes than I do here.
Yeah.
Because, it's like $100-$200 in ferry fees to bring your car there and back, all the gas, then you're either camping or paying for a hotel, which aren't cheap over there. So it's quite a endeavor just to do.
Yeah.
And then ever since Trump's been in office, my travels to the States have been, I put myself on a self-imposed travel ban. When they banned Muslims from entering the country, I banned myself.
That's
even though I'm not a Muslim, I just want to represent, want to support. Yeah. So as soon as he's out of there, I'm ready to get back and go to some of those American spots again.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Knock on wood.
Yeah.
No, that is fair. Actually, it's funny. One of the girls I surf with, she's from BC originally. She's here now, and she said the same thing. She's gotten more surf in this area than she was. Same thing. She just couldn't get to Tofino. Like it was just hard to get there, so she didn't get there as often as she'd like. And here she is in Ontario on a lake, getting more surf than her sort of BC life let her get.
Yeah. And see, when I lived in Leamington on Lake Erie, the surf there is very limited. I mean, I was limited to winds from the southwest, right? So for you guys, the idea that you can surf on more than just one wind direction is like amazing. So that's why I'm looking at getting somewhere like that. And I like what you mentioned too, is in that area, you can also make your way up to Georgian Bay or Lake Ontario or Lake Erie. You're sort of in more of a central spot to make the drive.
For sure. No, I do know, like, you are correct. Up here, we're pretty lucky. I mean, the waves, you can't be picky. Like like I go out and I surf the Southwest. It's a mess. But I do it because I love it. But I do know the surfers that I know that get the most surf, they're kind of in between all three, and they're able to travel as much as their life allows, and they definitely get more clean waves than most.
Yeah. See, I like that idea, but at the same time, at the end of the day, when I kick my feet up at home, I want to be close to the water and not in the middle. Yeah. So you kind of gotta choose one and then just drive the rest. So what's next for SurfSup Eco Shop? Where are you guys headed?
Great question. Well, to be honest, because of COVID, right now it's more about sort of maximizing what we can this year. But ultimately, what I'd love to expand into is more sort of adventure-based packages. Like I'd love to start building. I mean, obviously our waves are so hard to predict, but in the fall, you definitely increase your percentage of hitting the waves. And I'd love to start getting into more, having people be able to come to our area in the fall for a weekend, and they get to surf and sup, and then, obviously visit all the other businesses that are in the towns on this area, because yes, this area is amazing in the summer, but it's also amazing in the fall, and there's lots to do. So I'd love to start pushing more sort of like travel type packages for people who are visiting this area, and to help support tourism for more than just the 2-month window that most people flock.
Yeah. I love that smell of the leaves in September, and that's when I know, okay, summer was awesome, but now the surfing really begins.
Yeah, September. Oh man, fall's my favorite because it's still warm.
Yeah.
Great waves, and you're not freezing, which is good.
back home, I would smell, it was the Heinz ketchup factory was there. You could smell those tomatoes and that vinegar and ketchup, and you just knew, you knew good things were upon you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So here I am. I'm living out here in Vancouver, and like I said, I'm interested in getting back to meet all my new friends and hopefully do my own thing there. So I'm starting this brand, Freshwater Surf Goods, kind of using it as a platform to put myself out there a little bit. You know, growing up, my name is spelled D-E-R-I-K, which is a very odd spelling. So as a kid, I was always frustrated, you know, when you go to Cedar Point or you go on vacation, and I could never get the magnet or the keychain with my name spelled properly. And so I think I developed a bit of a complex, like not feeling like, you know, yeah, like I belong. So really my idea with this Freshwater Surf Goods brand is, you know, with there being a lot of stores and everything popping up, I think that's great. But I still notice like people are selling the Quicksilver and the Billabong and whatnot. So my goal with Freshwater Surf Goods is I want to create something that the freshwater surfers can really identify with. And so for me, a lot of that, I have a lot of ideas, you know, sort of fusing the cultures together, obviously, you know, Hawaiian culture, SoCal culture, things like that. And I want to really make some really cool Great Lakes designs that that get some pride across. And so with that, I've launched this podcast as a way to also not just ask for something, but to give something, right? I want to make sure I'm providing some kind of service. So the launch is going to be very humble. I only have, you know, one t-shirt design so far, but I'm also, you know, I am doing SUP lessons and things like that here. But with all that being said, I want to go home and I want to, you know, open up somewhere. What is your advice to someone like me wanting to do his own thing on the Great Lakes, wanting to open up a storefront of some kind? The do's and don'ts.
The do's and don'ts. Okay, perfect. Well, one, you should do it. I am such, nothing has taught me more about life than running my own business. You know, it is a different world, and it is full of possibility. So I am all for anyone who has that entrepreneurial spirit. I think you should do it. I encourage it, especially if you know you're someone who doesn't necessarily like working for someone else. Like you know, if you're that personality.
Yeah, no, I'm tired of that. I'm ready to be free.
Yeah. So right off the bat, I'm always, my gut instinct is you should do it. You should do it. Whatever it is, do it. The other piece is definitely do your best to run numbers, you know, because at the end of the day, as far as business is concerned, it is math. But don't, and try not to listen too much to other people, because take advice, absolutely. But know that, like, as with a business mind, you see an opportunity that other people probably don't.
Yeah.
And they probably can't understand the potential of it. So if you see something and you know there's potential there, like, trust that.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely do your homework in, you know, do your profit projections, like make sure you do as much market research as possible. Definitely take a look at the other competitors in the area. How are you going to differentiate? Make sure you understand, if you do plan on opening storefront, rent is a killer. So very careful about that. Rent is less fun. You know, we live in a world, especially if you're going to be such a niche brand, we live in a world where you can operate exclusively online to start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's amazing. It is like, I can't get over how easy we've made setting up an online store. And it's all free. And like, whether you have experience or not, as long as you're a little, you know, you can work a tablet, you can set up an online store. It's incredible. I'm blown away by it and fascinated by how much I can do. So, you know, even starting kind of online, and then if it blows up, you can then start looking at storefront. I know Ventana did that because they didn't have a storefront for a very long time, and now they have what I'm assuming is probably one of the most gorgeous stores imaginable. So yeah, and then as far as location goes, I guess it'd be a combination. I mean, you're thinking about raising a family, so it'd have to be a combination of where do you want to raise a family, and where is their opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of being more up by where you are, because I've already done the Toronto thing, and you know, everything more over to the east, it's getting busier and hectic. I want to get away from that. I really like the idea of being somewhere, you know, Kincardine to Owen Sound, or even further up in the Bruce Peninsula if there was opportunity. I mean, I would love to just be kind of more isolated like that, but it'd be hard to, I understand it'd probably be harder to get business at your business there, unfortunately. But yeah, and there's a few people in the area already in different places, like yourself, and then in Sauble Beach and things. But that's kind of where my heart is, kind of wanting to go more up Sauble or Owen Sound, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like one thing you have going for you is if you're sticking with your own brand, then you're not in direct competition with anyone. So that is a plus. And I guess like the one thing, the biggest thing about this area is from September to April, it's kind of a fight. You really won't see like a lot of traffic until spring, summer. A little bit in the fall, but it does. But if you're aware of that, you can plan for it. Okay. You also need to be very okay with running yourself ragged through the summer months. Kind of like a farming, right? You know, you have to do all the work when it's there, and then you realize later on you can recoup some of that time. When it gets slow, that's when, you know, that's a good time to plan vacations or breaks or that kind of stuff. But when it's going, my recommendation is to make sure you're ready for those days.
So where does the money come from? Does the money come from sales, or is the money in rentals and experiences, or?
In the summer, it's probably a 60-40 split. 60 being sales of goods and 40 being rentals, programs, all that kind of stuff. But in the fall, it lends, it's more 70-30 because everyone associates surfing with the summer.
Yeah.
And you have to break their hearts and be like, actually, it's flat.
Yeah.
Come back in September.
But if you get people eventually, as more and more surfers are produced, hopefully you'll be tending more to the surfers in the fall and more of an emphasis on SUP in the summer, right?
Absolutely. And that's what I do try to push. Like we keep our rentals going until it freezes. I have had some crazy people who are like, oh, I want to surf in the winter. I'm like, great, here's a 5 mil, good luck. And so I definitely like encourage people to kind of check that off their bucket list, because I mean the waves are good when it's cold. Yeah. Another thing too that I'm really pretty passionate about actually is giving access to the waves to locals. Believe it or not, there was definitely like a good crew already up here, but the majority of the town and the kids don't surf. Yeah. And that always boggled my mind. And I think it's just because they didn't really have clear access to it. And I'm starting to provide that. Like I've had now good like 4 or 5 teens that have gotten all the stuff this year. And I'm so stoked for them, because you should, like, it's right there in your backyard. Like you have access to this amazing thing that you've never, you know, and they rented first. And I talk to the parents, and I make sure I give lessons to, like, I make sure everybody is safe, because I want everyone to be very educated on like what a rip current is and when it's too heavy and that kind of stuff. I want everyone out there to be safe, but I also want them out there. like
Yeah.
especially the people that live in this area. And I find that that's now starting to grow. So I have a lot more locals taking lessons and asking about gear, and I'm helping them get suited. And I'm definitely seeing more and more of people that live here taking advantage of this amazing thing that we have. Because
Amazing.
yeah, right. Like, and I guess technically I'm not a local to this area, so I think that's maybe why I'm so enamored with it. Because like, I'm like, you don't realize what you have. Like, you can literally go walk out there right now and surf. Like,
Yeah.
that's like, that's the dream. So that helps too. So, you know, wherever you do set up, I highly well, I think it sounds like you do that anyways, but like if you start to build a community and give access to this amazing thing that happens to people that live in the area, you know, not only is that a sustainable business practice, it's kind of, it's what we do, right? Like, we spread the stoke. Like, there's enough waves for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and I just, yeah, it always, like when I started, like, I always surfed alone, and I just couldn't believe, I'm like, where are the teams? Like, I'm like, where, how are they not out here? It always kind of amazed me that there wasn't everybody out. But I think it's just because there just wasn't, well, I mean, lake surfing in general, people didn't really overly believe, but then you start seeing more and more pictures, and you see social media, and, you know, these surf shops are doing lessons and making sure everyone's entering it safely. And I think that's really starting to show people like, no, this is real. This is something we can all do. It's not just crazy people. It's, you know, it isn't like, it's not these insane people. Like, we all can enjoy these waves.
Yeah. You're making me remember back to those early days again. You were asking me about what that surf culture looked like.
Yeah.
My first wetsuit was a diving wetsuit. You know, like this two-piece kind of Farmer John, you know, bear wetsuit. I didn't know any better. Whatever, it worked. And I remember when I had a board that got damaged quite badly, and I needed to get it fixed. You know, I had to take it to a sailboat repair shop. You know, so that's just, you know, you say, oh, I have a surfboard. Like, no one's prepared for that in Southwestern Ontario at that time anyhow. Yeah, that's pretty rough. So with the surf lessons, how did you, you know, get into that? Did you do any ISA training or anything, or is it just from your own experience you've developed a curriculum? Or
yeah, from my own experience. So I have a long-standing history with water. I actually used to, in my teens, I used to race kayaking, the sprint kayakers. So I did that, and then from there, I was a sprint kayaking coach to youth. So I've basically been working kind of in and around water, and I've been, you know, CPR certified for as long as I can remember. And I also have my bronze cross. I was kind of a water kid.
nice. Yeah, I just got that last December.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It was a little different doing it at 38, you know, with a bunch of 14-year-olds, but either way, I feel like I'm prepared in any kind of situation now when I'm out in the water with clients.
Yeah, it's a really good one to have. So from that, so from teaching sort of the kids and always working at a camp and always teaching the water activities, from being my CPR certified and my bronze cross, and then just my own personal experience in and around the waves. I decided to offer lessons because I didn't want to do rentals without lessons. I think it's like, I know that I know more than that new person over there. Like, I know that, like, I may not be a professionally certified surfer. Like, I can't, you know, teach you how to do an aerial, but I can make sure that you can get out there, you can catch waves, you can pop, you can, and that you can surf safely. And I've taken a lot of lessons. Like, anytime I went to, you know, I've surfed in a few spots around the world, and anytime I was there, I took lessons. So I used my experience from those lessons, my own personal experience, to build an intro lesson, because I just want to make sure that people are safe, and that they know what they're doing, and that they catch waves. Like, if you're in the wrong position on a board, like you're not going to catch, and like that sucks. So I that's why I chose to give lessons, and I will continue to do that. Unfortunately, getting certified as a surf instructor in Ontario is difficult.
Yeah, I've noticed. And to get the ISA training, like you got to be a pretty good surfer, you know, doing cutbacks and all these things. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Is it on my list to accomplish? Absolutely. I know it's offered in Tofino. It is something I would like to start. It's just a matter of finding the opportunity to go out there and start getting the certifications. Until then, I'm going to maintain my CPR and my water safety courses and what I know about lake surfing.
are you a member of Paddle Canada at all?
No, I took the, oh my goodness, the World Paddle Association. I am a World Paddle Association certified instructor. I took that course with Sup Girls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm certified with them for stand-up paddleboarding.
Nice.
Yeah, I didn't end up going the Canada paddle route, just because, to be honest, I didn't have the time to go through that many levels.
Yeah.
So I have that though, the WPA. What I'd like to do though is, now that International Surfing Association is, you know, the official Olympic governing body, I want to get all my certifications under that.
I'm with you. Let me know how that goes, or you know, I'd love to. I want to hit that up eventually as well. I'm certified through Paddle Canada to teach SUP surfing, so that's, you know, pretty close. So that's been really helpful, and I think that'll go over well. How is SUP surfing received on Lake Huron?
You know what? There's way more SUP surfers on a lake than you'd ever see in an ocean.
Yeah.
And I get why. It to be fair, like, especially, you know, if you're investing in all the gear, to have a board that does both is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You know, you can get some pretty small SUPs that you can still balance on pretty well, that handle very well in the lake. So no, there's definitely more surfers than SUP surfers out there at any given time. For the most part, I think SUP surfers are pretty good about, you know, sharing the waves, because obviously they're a lot faster and they can catch the waves a lot sooner. So, but for the most part, I've seen them sort of respect and wait in the lineup kind of like they should. But yeah, but I mean, there's definitely more SUP surfers in the lake than I've ever seen in the ocean.
Yeah, I love the simplicity of just being out there with my surfboard, but then at the same time, like, there's other days where you just don't want to paddle or really exert yourself. Like, SUP surfing is where it's at. I mean, I can get out way further, way quicker. At the end of the day, can go again. Like, it's pretty revolutionary in a way, actually. And I'm quite curious to see it now on the lakes, especially some of those small mushy days. I'm thinking with a great big SUP, like, you might have more opportunity.
Oh yeah, my favorite is, like, we'll get days where, you know, the wind's not high, but it's been blowing for a long time, and we'll get these really beautiful rollers. Like, they're not breaking, but they've got some height. And with a SUP surf, you can catch them. Like a surfboard, you'd never catch it. But with a SUP surf, you can actually get on it and get a bit of a ride. So in the summer, to be honest, SUP surfing isn't a bad thing to learn how to do, because you'll definitely get more opportunity to ride a wave than if you're just trying with your arms. Like, you'll never get it.
Yeah. So hey, when you're not surfing and you're not fixing wind turbines, what else are you stoked about?
Oh, well, I mean, you know, to be honest, building SurfSup. So, like, I am very stoked on my business. I love it. I love being a business owner. I love all the opportunity it presents. I love thinking of new ideas and new avenues, new, like, programs and all that stuff. So I'm definitely I really love that. I also, I really like renovating. So I live in a church with my husband, and we're renovating it. So that's really fun. I spend a lot of time. It's pretty cool. So I really enjoy doing that kind of stuff.
Did you get a short board and a long board and just, like, put it up where the cross used to be? Like,
I'm doing it.
temple of the surf. Pray for surf.
That's awesome. I should do that. I totally could too.
That's
I like
pretty rad. Yeah, well, you
Oh,
know, it's amazing. You've only been around 3 years, but your name comes up in conversation quite easily now. Like
oh,
SurfSup Eco Shop, you know, I've seen the shout outs and I think it's fairly well known. So you must be doing something or multiple things correct.
awesome. Well, I thank you. I really love it. So I think
Yeah.
that helps a lot. And I really like I've been trying to find a way to describe like everything that we do and like really, you know, like spread the stoke. Like that is, I
Yeah.
think, the ultimate mission of SurfSup, whether it's spreading the stoke about paddleboarding or the shirt that you just bought or the surfboard or the lesson or even just the experience, the one-time bucket list experience. Like it's just about like just spreading that stoke.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my elevator pitch for my business, I feel is pretty brutal. Like, you know, when I tell people about it, it's like surfing on the lake. I mean, it's, you know, the whole ordeal. So just to see you sitting there with boards behind you and board shorts and things, it's real. Like it can really happen. It's a real thing. So I congratulate you for that. I'm super stoked that you're doing this and just seeing how vibrant and excited you are about it makes me happy because I am starting with the online route. I feel like that's a very safe thing to do. I can still work full time and whatnot. But at the end of the day, you're still working for someone else. And I love the idea of just being absorbed in what you love day in, day out. And you have to admit, like, even when you were working full time, sometimes in your evenings, your work was taking people on a tour or a lesson. So that's pretty wicked work.
Oh yeah. No, I didn't really feel like I was
Yeah.
tired, but I was like happy tired.
Yeah.
Really
And
good.
then when you're doing retail, you're probably just talking about how much you love surfing and what things are used for. And
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
yeah.
Actually, my favorite is when people come in and they're like, they see the surfboards and they're like, no. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, no. And I'm like, no, it's real. Like, let me show you pictures. Like,
So what brands do you carry for boards?
ooh, so for surfboards, are under Global Surf Industries. So we've got moderns are probably some of my favorite for the lake. They are great beginner boards. They're high volume, which is awesome.
Mm,
So the moderns do really, really well. They've got good shapes too. Like they're plainy, you know, nice happy nose. Like I like the moderns a lot. Um, as far as performance boards go, I definitely have a soft spot for Hayden Shapes, the Hypto
mm,
Crypto. I really like that board because it is a bit higher volume. So again, for transitioning from a fun board to something more short, it performs very nicely in the lake. You just catch a lot. So yeah, no, we have so modern Hayden Shapes, Waldens. We just got Waldens in. I love those too. Again, you're getting that high volume. You can ride a really tiny, well, you know, you can ride a baby board in the lake, but ultimately, especially if you're starting, I always push people towards a higher volume, like increase your
mm,
catch count and make sure you can catch on days that are not great
yeah.
because you don't want to be out there and not catching. So yeah, so we have them. We just got NSP, which is pretty awesome. I think it's going to be a good durable board. I like that. We've got some catch surfs coming in, so I'm excited about those because we are carrying Naraloos, which is a great foamy,
Okay.
solid. We use them in our rental fleet. They last. They're pretty for a foamy. They're pretty maneuverable, which is nice. We've got for sup surfs, you'll be interested in this. We have Tom Carroll's.
Nice.
They are gorgeous. And I like brilliant design. Like I've never
Mm,
seen like any of the other subsurfs that we have don't do what he does
yeah.
with
Wow.
they're unreal. So those are pretty sweet. And then paddleboard wise, we've got adventure paddleboards, Kahunas, Wappa, which is our eco-friendly line, Canadian. I like his
Okay.
work. We just hooked up with Bow Lake, who's another Canadian company, which is great. We have some hand-shaped wooden surfboards from Aeon Surf, who's in Nova Scotia.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then we also have LibTex as well because they do have a more eco-friendly technology, and we're getting the cocoa flax ones from SurfTech, which I'm excited about because again, they're trying to go in a more eco-friendly way, which is good.
Nice,
A
nice.
lot of boards.
Right on. Wow, good options.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, we got a lot. It's
yeah.
fun.
You got
Fan.
choices. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually shaping my own board right now, which is a pretty cool experience. I'm making one for my wife. Yeah, I'm making her a mini Malibu, and sort of a new appreciation for the boards. And out here in Vancouver, the shaper I'm with now, it's called Hidden Village Surfcraft and Design, I believe. Pretty small operation right now, but he's doing great work. And before he was there, there was a place called Shaper, and so you could pay a membership fee, come and learn how to shape boards and use the garage whenever you want. So I'd really like, I'm really curious to keep learning how to shape boards a little bit, and that could be a cool business angle. I think having I don't know if there's necessarily money to be made in making the boards, but in an educational component, like doing courses, like coming and building your own surfboard sort of a thing. I think could be pretty cool. I think a lot of people would want to do that.
I think a lot of people would want to do that too. I think I'd do that. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Like it'd be very cool to do, just to see, like you said, what goes into it. Cause I know it's 10 times harder than you think.
Yeah, and you know, right now as we build it and we're planing up near the nose and whatnot, you know, when you're planing the sides, it keeps the same thickness fairly well. But then when you go up to the nose and you're doing your concaves and your contours, you're just kind of digging in this spot. And for me, sort of my OCD and things, or perfectionism is going, you know, why are we measuring this? Like, how do we know it's exactly this on this side as the other? And the fact is you don't. It's an art. It's a feeling thing, and you see it. And of course there's checks and balances and you do measure here and there, but generally it's very artistic, and so it's really a cool process anyhow. Yeah. So hey, as we wrap up here, do you have anything that you want to say to the listeners, or anywhere people can connect with you or see what's going on?
Yeah, for sure. Just one, for all of you who are listening, thanks so much. And two, if anyone, you know, is interested in trying out freshwater surfing, we love to get people on the water. We do obviously have our rentals and our lessons, and I do highly recommend a lesson. I definitely, when I started surfing, I was overconfident and I didn't take a lesson the first time. I mean, I fell in love immediately, but I also picked up a ton of bad habits.
Yeah.
So lessons really do put you ahead. So I highly recommend it, whether it's from us or even, I know Surf Ontario and Surf the Greats offer them as well. They have some pretty amazing teachers. So I highly, highly recommend that route. And because I worked so hard on it, please check out my online store. It took me hours. Yeah, if you need gear, we do free shipping and all that good stuff. And yeah, you can connect with us through Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, though I don't tweet often. And then our website is surfsupecoshop.com. And that's
right on. I'll be checking that out later. I think when I get there, I might have to come take one of your lessons. I've never, you know, I've been surfing 20 years. I've never taken a formal lesson, and you know, there wasn't exactly a lesson for me to sign up for back when I started. That would have been really helpful, you know, even like just learning, you know, to fall back on the board so that I wouldn't get cranked on the head after, you know, or jumping off in ankle deep water and spraining your ankle, like some of these simple things that you don't know in the beginning. Yeah. So
no,
that's
and
great.
That is 100% what I tell them all. Like what you just said is what I'm like, okay, make sure you starfish and you fall back. Don't jump off. Don't go head first ever. Like that's why I do give lessons, is because like, yeah, okay, maybe I'm not certified, but I can tell you those things. Like those things you should know. Like it'll help you a lot.
Yeah, but we're in a whole nother dynamic here at Great Lakes surfing. I mean, there's not really an authority over it. So we could create our own standards and training programs if we wanted to.
Absolutely.
So you're an innovator.
Sure. Maybe a little.
Yeah, nice.
That. One thing you'll have to do, I'm not sure when you're thinking of coming this way, but any kind of collaborating you want to do, especially if you're up in this area, like, let me know. I'm very down for hosting things. I think it's a lot of fun. I like the retail side is how I ground the business, but ultimately, like, hosting stuff is what I really like doing. So whether it's even a series, a SurfSup series, I think would be awesome. I am a terrible SurfSup surfer. I'm not even trying to teach people. But yeah, you'll have to keep in touch for sure and let me know.
Absolutely.
You know, because any of that kind of stuff would be awesome. And any, you know, any ideas you want to run by me, like, I'm more than happy to talk shop, because fun.
I've got a new friend, and I have a feeling if I need resources or questions, I'm sure you'll be there.
Yeah. And all you'll have to do when you do t-shirts, a t-shirt I've been wanting forever is ice in my hair, don't care.
Okay, I'm writing that down.
Because it's perfect, because especially, like, I don't know if you've seen how, I know, like, the ice, you can't beat the ice beard, but if you have like the slightest bit of hair come out of your hood, you get this huge, like, chunk of ice.
Right on. Keep the suggestions coming. That's exactly what I need. Perfect. I'm so excited to launch on Saturday, because I've been working on this in the background since 2018, actually, just on the side. So it's overdue to actually launch it. So I'm excited, really, just to be out there and having these opportunities to communicate with people like yourself that I wouldn't necessarily if I hadn't been doing this. So it is rad, and it has been so awesome talking to you. I can't wait to meet you in person and go surfing together.
Yeah, that'd be really sick. I'll definitely want some pointers off of you, because if you've been surfing that long, like, man, that'd be good.
Yeah, I don't know, or the other way. We'll see. It's the thing, like, the consistency. I mean, I'm probably better than I give myself credit for, but I always call myself a shit surfer, just because I don't get that every day going out like you're in Tofino, right? I would love to just have a month somewhere where I could just go every day and refine some of those things that you don't get to. And then, you got to wait a couple of weeks till the waves are back up again. It's not like, so. But anyway, either way, Duke Kahanamoku, I read a book about him, and he said that the best surfer is the surfer having the most fun.
Yeah.
So that's all that matters.
Yeah, I agree with that statement. I think that's very true.
Yeah. And if you're surfing on the lake, then that means that you're stoked, because if you weren't, you wouldn't bother.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that's why, like, we're just so okay with being kooky. Like, we know, but, like, we love it. It's just, I mean, you're just stoked enough to surf anything, because like, as I tell everyone, surfing is better than not surfing. Absolutely.
Yeah. I had a really profound quote that I said, where is it? In 2005, I was interviewed by the Windsor Star, and they said to me, I have this quote, it says, "It's not the fact that we don't want to surf the ocean, it's the fact that we don't have an ocean." And that's, like, in big bold print. It's like, wow, okay, is that how I'm going to be remembered? Very profound. But I was just trying to say, like, we do what we can with what we have, and we love it. No one owns the sport, right? So oh man, that's funny. It's true. Yeah, like, if I had an ocean over there, I'd probably just surf that, but I have a lake. It's we're lucky to have a lake. Yeah. And honestly, you guys are becoming cooler and cooler by the day, I think. Like, there was a time when it was the laughing stock, but now, I mean, there's videos, there's, much more credibility coming to it now. I mean, there's been lots of films. I mean, I just watched the Great Lakes Surf Film Festival. I mean, there's some of these amazing things like this that weren't around before. So there's definitely some more legitimacy to it, I would say.
Absolutely. And you've got, some surfers like Ben Gravy that that have some fame to them, and they surf the lake, and just social media, right? Social media is showing people like some of those waves on Lake Superior. Oh my God.
I know. Yeah.
It is unreal. Like, and it's just people being like, oh no, that's a wave.
Yeah. Yeah. We gotta like, some of us gotta get together and go on these road trips, like up to Stony Point and places that, you know, we haven't been.
Superior. Like, I really want to go. That is on my list.
Yeah.
I think it'd be incredible. It's yeah. Again, the shots I've seen from there, they're huge.
Yeah.
It's mean. And
yeah.
huge.
And those waves sunk the Edmund Fitzgerald. I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to ride those.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right on.
Yes, sweet. Yeah, no, Derik, it was like really awesome to meet you in person, and like anything I can do to help, please let me know. Yeah, again, like starting your own business, it's the best thing I've ever done. Was it hard? Did it require sacrifice? Yeah, a lot. I cry every day. There's still times like January, February, I'm like, what am I doing? This is so stupid, you know?
Yeah.
But it's awesome. And I think promoting the freshwater, I think there needs to be a freshwater, like, you know, salt life, we need a fresh life. You know, we need something that does promote, because it is different. It's just a different style of surfing. And I even Great Lake life, I think, is kind of, it's just unique to ocean style life, I guess. So yeah, I think it'll be awesome. I'm excited to see what your one t-shirt, I guess.
There'll be more. There's more on the way, but to start, yeah, there's one coming this Saturday with the launch of the podcast. So
yeah. I'm not I mean, obviously you need to get them produced. I'm not sure who's doing all your printing and stuff. If you need some connections, let me know. I know some local Canadian people, as well as like, I don't know if you know the company Jericho, but they have all bamboo clothing. It's very sustainable. And it's just, their stuff is just blank. Like, it's just a white bamboo. We do really well with them. Just if you're looking for base stuff.
I need that information, because the first run we did, you know, I wasn't thinking too much about it at the time. It was like, you're just gonna make some t-shirts. I don't think they're horribly made or anything, but I had a run of 50 done, and then since then I've decided, I'm like, you know, I know it's a little more money, but I just got to go the green route, just because those are my morals. It's like, I just have to do that. So it's worth it. Like, you are going to get people that won't want to pay a little bit more, but you will get people that will pay a little bit more because they know it's sustainable. So I would definitely check out Jericho. I can also put you in touch. There's a guy, do you know the brand Rawfish? No, I'm writing that down now. Yeah, so Tim Hine, we carry his stuff. He does really good hats. Some of his clothing is sustainable, some of it's not, but he does a lot of work in Canada. So like he's a big promoter of like getting all his printing and stuff done locally in Ontario. And he likes doing other people's stuff, and he's quite good at it, and his rates are pretty good. He's a good one to connect with for sure. And his hats and t-shirts sell really well. A lot of them incorporate rayon, which is that bamboo piece. Okay. Yeah, so he's a good one to connect. But look up Rawfish, you'll see. It's like an outdoor Canadian fishing brand. Right on. But he's a great guy. Like, Tim is a really cool guy. He'd be a good one to connect with. He could help hook you up with stuff. He's done some t-shirts for us. Right and on. It was good. We had no problem selling them. So nice. I will do that. Yeah, and if you ever, you know, if you like any of our product and you want to sell it in your store, that would be pretty rad too. Yeah. I'd like to. Yeah. For sure. Ice in my hair, don't care shirt, you know, coming right up. Seriously, you'd sell. I've wanted it made for so long. I'm like, it's so good because it's a play on the sand in my hair, don't care. Come on. Okay. But yeah, so if it gets done, we'll bring them in for sure. Right on. Nice. All right. Super stoked to have met you. Super stoked to, you know, get back to Ontario and see you in person. I had a job interview today before this, actually. That was super nerve-wracking. So this has been fun to just kind of let loose. So yeah, so I thank you for that. Keep doing what you're doing. The Lord's work there in Kincardine and Goderich, spreading the stoke. Right on. Yeah. So see you later and stay stoked, Tara.
Yeah, you too, Derik. I'll talk to you later.
Peace.
Bye.